Archive. This is likely one of the gacha games that you've probably never played. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of this channel, then yeah, you probably play it because it's more than likely one of the reasons that you originally started following along this channel's journey, unless it was like Arknights. But this game, in my opinion, is amazing. I have a bunch of characters who I enjoy. Yes, Izuna's a popular favorite among them. We have Chisei here. Please don't get me demonetized. But overall, the characters are nice. The OST is extremely good, and the live 2Ds are great. Now, slightly lewd, yes, but I mean, she's adorable. It's worthwhile. I mean, she was free too. The characters themselves are great, and I legitimately think Blue Archive provides an extremely good experience, even if you're free to play and not necessarily going for all the units in the game, because all the units, you know, the higher rarity ones and the lower rarity ones do essentially have pretty decent storylines. It means you can follow along in almost all of them and get a overall good experience. Yes, I understand some live 2Ds may be better than others, and you may not like all of them, but given how many characters are in this game, it's very likely you're going to find one unit who you enjoy either the design of, the kit of, or just overall the aesthetic themselves, whether it's of their original variation or the alternative variation, whether it's the bunny outfits, the Christmas themed ones, or the swimming ones. You have options. And I think that as a whole, Blue Archive provides you with a decent experience. Whether you're like me and choose to never play the main story, or you choose to take your time, meet with the community, actually learn about the not only lore of the game itself, but follow along with the main chapter storyline, you have a lot you can enjoy. Considering this game has been out for a decently long time, there's a lot of content you have backed up, not necessarily just in terms of the storyline and the side stories, but also in the events. The events provide their own separate storyline. Even as of right now, we're getting a rerun of an event. And so if you're somebody who takes legitimate interest in the designs and wants to learn more about the characters, and as a result want to get invested, you have a lot of content. So I'm just going to do my best to give you my overall thoughts and some reasons as to why you should play it and maybe why you won't like it. Even though I recommend this game, I understand that it's not for everybody. I also understand that certain aspects may be those that you don't legitimately enjoy, and as a result may pull you back from the game or make you unlikely to even give it a long-term shot, because I will admit Blue Archive does take a little bit of time to get going. And I think that if you don't take liking to its gameplay, for whatever that may be, you will have a tough time sticking with this game long term. Even I, who play this game relatively often and who has covered it in the past, don't play the game. I play it on and off, but I normally just sweep. And so as a result, yes, I have characters, and yes, I've done their relationship storylines, but I haven't done the main quest line, because the main storyline, whilst interesting, doesn't have appealing gameplay attached to it, and so I choose to not really do it. But for that matter, what is the gameplay? What does it boil down to? Well, you have two options. First off, it's the sweep. Previously, you had limited bounty cards that were essentially restricted to certain sections, like this bounty section up here, which is the overpass, the desert railroad, and the classroom. Now, they're all just universal, so you can apply them to wherever you want. You can sweep them like I'm doing here, which is pretty quick and simple, especially if you don't have the time to play. Or if you're looking to invest more heavily into the later stages, that's when you get into legitimate gameplay. And Blue Archive, for what it's worth, doesn't inherently have, at least in my opinion, very good gameplay. There's essentially the type mixing, as in here, we have enemies who are, or have, a heavy armor, light armor, and then heavy the entire time. So essentially what you're doing is you're matching it up. What do they leak to? Explosive and piercing damage. Okay, cool. And that's about the most decision-making you can realistically have. Because for the vast majority of content in this game, you're essentially watching these chibis run across screen. It's very cute, and they have nice animations. The problem is, you can't really individually move them around. Now, don't get me wrong, there are ways to get them to move. These are with units who can place down barriers, or units who want characters to maneuver out the way with evasion-based abilities. But as a result, the vast majority of the time, you can either, and will either be using these skills to deal damage, or you will be in a position to where you can just let the game auto, especially if it's content that's easier to an extent to where you don't have to think too heavily. So as you can see here, despite the chibis being cute, and despite the skills actively doing something, I'm not doing much in terms of gameplay to where I can legitimately say my contribution matters. And so you could legitimately like that style of gameplay, and you could like how hands-off it is. That's perfectly understandable. I think it's very enjoyable earlier on because the less attention you have to play, and the less attention you have to pay to the game itself, the less you have to play, and as a result, you can kind of breeze through the early stages to an extent to where you can get to either the later stages of the story itself, the group stories to the characters you enjoy, which can, to a degree, require you to collect other units. Like if I'm going, for example, actually no, I have a bunch of units, never mind. Some want you to collect certain units before you can unlock the group story, which is perfectly understandable because you do and can, as a result, learn more about the character and then their overall group. For instance, I love Izuna, and so as a result, I like the Ninjutsu Retouch Club. It's great, but I've done it, at least the first section. There's a second one I can do now. But for the most part, the vast majority of people who do play this game will be playing for the story. Whether it is the mini stories, the main story, which has a lot going on, or maybe you're just the type of person who really wants to pay attention to the events, or just unlock all the students you can for their live 2Ds and for their respective assets. I'm not gonna lie, Blue Archive is carried in a lot of ways by the art community. I've made numerous videos on it. I will probably be linking them down below, but overall, I'd say it's a fun experience. I'd say the game is good. I'd say the music is good. The one pitfall I think the game has is its gameplay, which is a big factor. But because of how minimal the gameplay itself actually is, it's not as large of a reason to not play it as you would otherwise think. I think in games like Genshin and HSR, if you don't enjoy the gameplay, you won't really have a reason to play the game otherwise because it's all gameplay. Whereas Blue Archive has a bigger focus overall on story. And as a direct result of that, you can be in a position to where you hate the gameplay, but love everything else about it to the extent to where you can push through, get to the characters you like, get the characters you like, and then sit comfortably. For me, my favorites are and always will be Izuna. I don't know why Yuzu was leveled up higher. I don't know what black magic bullshit that was, but Izuna is overall my favorite. Her swimsuit variation and her normal variation. As a result, she's pretty much maxed out in terms of what I'm willing to do without farming too heavily, and I have enjoyed her storyline considerably more than anything else. She what got me into this game in the first place, and she's the individual who kept me sticking and kept me playing long term because I was waiting forever for this, and I'm not gonna lie, the art is really nice in general. But do you play it? If you don't, and if you drop today, tell me down below why. I have dropped this numerous times because I just can't get into the gameplay, but I pick it always back up because the students are very, very cute, and I think it's worthwhile. Now, yes, the biggest issue people will say is the character information section here, but I'm gonna be honest, it's fictional, so who gives a damn? Either way, I'll see you next time.